Testing. Okay, everybody here? Okay. Distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Singapore Islamic Hub. We are indeed honored to have you spending your evening with us. May I request everyone to be seated? We will begin our program very soon. Do switch off your mobile devices or put them to silent mode so as to ensure smooth proceeding of the lecture. Thank you. We have with us today members from the Gurmat Sangeet Academy, and they will perform for you a piece of devotional music called Rag Ramkali. Mr. Manbir Singh, music instructor from the Central Sikh Temple, will explain to you a little bit about the performance and tell you what it means to them.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This group is performing from Sikh Center. We are performing a music composition from the Sikh scripture, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So, you are seeing the instruments here. The instrument I am holding is called Rabab. And my fellow teacher, Maninder Singh, is playing a taus. So the shape of this instrument is like a peacock. So in Arabic we call this taus. So my students are performing Israj, Dilruba, and the Indian drums tabla. So this composition is in Rag Ramkali, a musical measure sung in the evenings. So the verse being sung tells about the diversity of spirituality by reminding that people of different faith remember God with different names. So we're singing this composition. I hope you all guys enjoy it. Thank you very much. वाहेगुरु वाहेगुरु अवल अल्लाह नूर उपाया अवल अल्लाह नूर उपाया
अवल अल्लाह नूर उपाया कुदरत के सब बंदे
एक नूर ते सब जग उपजा कौन पले कोमल दे कौन पले कोमल पिसत कोई सुरगिंदु कोई बात पिसत कोई सुरगिंदु कोई सुरगिंदु
कारण करण करी
कृपा कर रही
कारण करण करी
कृपा कर रही कारण करण करी कृपा कर रही कारण करण करी कृपा कर
कारण करण करी कृपा कर रही
कहो नानक जिन हुक्म पछाता
कहो नानक जिन हुक्म पछाता कहो नानक
कोई बोले राम राम कोई खुदाए कोई खुदाए कोई खुदाए कोई खुदाए कोई खुदाए कहो नानक जिन हुक्म पछाता कहो नानक जिन हुक्म पछाता रब साहिब का बिन भेद जाता रब साहिब का बिन भेद जाता बिन भेद जाता कारण करण करी कृपा कर रही कारण करण करी कृपा कर रही कृपा कर
कोई बोले राम राम कोई खुदा कोई
कारण करण करीम कृपा तार रही कृपा तार रहीम कृपा तार रहीम तार रहीम कृपा तार रहीम कारण करण करीम कृपा तार रहीम कृपा तार रहीम कृपा तार रहीम कृपा तार वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। Thank you everyone.
All right. Thank you very much to the Gurmat Sangeet Academy for that extremely inspiring piece. We are actually very honored to have them play for us tonight. They just told me they were invited once to play at the MBS as well. So they are, quite a big deal. Yeah. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Sahib al-Samaha, Dr. Muhammad Fatris Bakaram, Mufti of Singapore. Mr. Jarmal Singh, Chairman of the Sikh Advisory Board, Singapore. Honorable leaders of various faith communities. Muiz Council members. Youth leaders from religious, educational, and community institutions. Ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. I begin with the greeting of peace and a very good evening. My name is Go Ridwan, and I warmly welcome you to the 5th Abdul Alim Siddiq Memorial Lecture 2015. The Memorial Lecture is a signature event by Harmony Center to bring faith leaders and activists together to engage in discussing contemporary issues that can bond us closer and contribute to the harmonious inter-religious life in our multi-religious, multi-ethnic Singapore. Allow me to share with you briefly on the background of the Memorial Lecture. The Abdul Alim Siddiq Memorial Lecture is part of Harmony Center's effort to strengthen understanding among different faith communities. It is also a platform for senior leaders of the faith communities in Singapore to share their unique perspectives and insights into contemporary, national, global issues and trends affecting humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, behind the name of this memorial lecture is a great peace scholar and an ambassador. Born on 3rd of April, 1892, in Meerut, India, Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiq played a significant role in contributing and promoting peace and harmony amongst people of all faiths. His passion and deep commitment for bringing diverse communities together stems from his unique and painful experience of having to witness and go through the tumultuous history of India and partition riots leading to the formation of Pakistan. In 1932, Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiq pioneered the establishment of Jamia in Singapore and is one of the founders of Inter-Religious Organization of Singapore, IRO. Maulana's philosophy of harmony is best captured in this quote. Shall read it to you. He said, "Every human figure is like the musical instrument participating in a musical performance. Learn the lesson of harmony from the orchestra. Remember, that the moment you succeed in creating the requisite harmony with your fellow being, melodious tunes will emanate from human life, imparting that sweetness. Through this lecture series, we hope to nurture many more Abdul Alim Siddiqs among our youth leaders. Now, it is my pleasure to invite the Mufti of Singapore, Sahib al-Samaha, Dr. Muhammad Fatris Bakaram, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Mufti, please.
Respected religious leaders of all faith communities, MUIS Council members, youth leaders from religious, educational, and community institutions, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to one and all, and assalamu alaikum. First and foremost, I wish to welcome everyone to the Abdul Alim Siddiq Memorial Lecture, and on behalf of MUIS and the Harmony Center, I wish to express our sincere thanks to all for joining us this evening and supporting a cause that matters much to us. That is, strengthening bonds of relationship amongst our religious communities through deep understanding and dialogue, especially amongst our youths. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, this year is a very special year. We had just celebrated 50 years of our nation's independence. From the very beginning, the late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew had emphasized the importance of maintaining racial and religious harmony. Today, the peaceful and harmonious relationship between different faith communities is an achievement that we ought to be proud of. Diversity has become strength for us. And more importantly, the different religions continue to contribute positively to nation building and maintain the peace and stability that allow all of us to thrive despite our differences. It is particularly important to ensure that the fruits of the labor of our pioneers shall continue to be an inspiration, particularly for our younger generation. Our youths are an asset to us, yet they will inherit a different world from ours. The challenge of maintaining peace and harmony will remain the same, but the response has to be different. Our world is changing, ladies and gentlemen. The rapid expansion of technology is one new challenge that our youths will continue to face. In recent times, we had seen how technology poses new challenges, particularly in interreligious relations. While technology can be harnessed for good purposes, there is no denial that they can also be a source of disruption to societal peace and stability. We had seen how conflicts can occur and spiral out of control through the spread of fear, rumors, and hatred of one group against another. Our youths need to understand this and be given the adequate skill and composure to deal with such challenges. One of the ways to overcome fear, rumors, and hatred is to create safe spaces for our youths to interact with people of different faiths and beliefs. Our youths must learn how to deal with differences and accept the inherent diversity within society. The Abdul Alim Siddiq Memorial Lecture is one of the many platforms that the Harmony Center offers to bridge youths of different faiths together and to provide a positive environment where exchange of ideas can occur in respectful ways. Through this program, we hope that our youths can draw wisdom from the various faith leaders and forge friendships with youths of different faiths. This is the 5th Abdul Alim Siddiq Memorial Lecture. In last year's lecture presented by Swami Samachittananda from the Hindu faith, he spoke about the importance of spirituality and how religion without spirituality is akin to having form without substance. His presentation provoked the audience to rethink the concept of religion to include higher drive towards attaining truth beyond mere practice of rituals. This, according to Swami, will unite us towards a common goal, despite our differences. I am pleased to announce that the lecture is now available in the form of a book, which you received today as a gift from the Harmony Center. If last year's theme, ladies and gentlemen, was on the importance of spirituality and the need to pursue the truth in religious consciousness, today's lecture hopes to deepen the insight by asking how we can embody the truths that we cherish through what Sikhism describes as truthful living. This theme is pertinent given the need to go beyond cerebral contemplation and translate our beliefs into actions. To live in accordance to the precepts of truths is certainly no easy task, yet it remains as the most important aspect in today's world where we are called to serve the God, the Creator, and humanity with deep integrity, conviction, and sincerity. Ladies and gentlemen, religions today are faced with multiple challenges coming from our complex world. Community life is under threat as the ethical life is increasingly replaced by a selfish pursuit of the ego that causes suffering to individuals, to families, to societal living. We need to ask ourselves all over again, what is the good? How can we put forth a way of living that do not cause further suffering to ourselves, to other fellow humans and animals, and to our ecosystem on the whole? The first step is to raise consciousness and deep reflection on this issue. The second step is to draw wisdom from the deep reservoir of our religious traditions and resources. The third is to act in accordance to our beliefs that will bring about the healing of our chaotic world. And last but not least, we must work together in concerted effort because no religious community lives in isolation from the other, and the problems we face as human beings are often interconnected and multidimensional. Just as no religious community can live in isolation and left with all the problems that surround us, no one religious community too has all the solutions and can monopolize ways to address our multifaceted problems in society. Therefore, cooperation is needed across the religious communities to confront our common problems and assist towards the healing of society and this precious and only world that we have. I hereby wish to record my sincere gratitude to Mr. Jarmal Singh for agreeing to share his wisdom and insights into the topic for today, and to the Sikh Advisory Board for partnering us in this year's lecture. Our thanks also goes especially to Ms. Nazira Muhammad, our youthful docent of the Harmony Center with vast experience in interfaith work. She was also one of the promising youth interfaith activists whom Muiz had identified and sent for this year's Building Abrahamic Partnership Summer Program at the Hartford Seminary, Connecticut, USA. This, again, is testament to Muiz's effort to continue supporting our youths, who will be an asset to us, and to continue the legacy of maintaining interreligious peace and harmony in Singapore. The Abdul Alim Siddiqui Memorial Lecture Series is in its fifth year. In line with the constant need to deal with new circumstances, Muiz will embark on a review process in order to enhance and improve this important platform. This may mean incorporating a new format, as well as the possibility of inviting speakers beyond the leaders of the 10 faith groups in Singapore, who may bring new perspectives and insights that can enrich the discourse further. I look forward to your continuous support in this endeavor. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I wish everyone here an enjoyable lecture today. I certainly look forward to learning from the rich experience, perspective, and wisdom that our distinguished speaker has to offer today. I hand you now to the Master of Ceremony to proceed with the lecture proper. Thank you.
Thank you, Mufti. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Mufti mentioned earlier, Harmony Center is in the process of rethinking and reviewing the format and thrust of the Abdul Alim Siddiq Memorial Lecture to make it more accessible to youths. Your help and feedback is extremely important to us. We need your feedback to ensure the continuation of this lecture in the future. So for our younger participants, please do take the time and tell us what you would like to see in upcoming lectures. With that, it is my pleasure to begin the lecture proper by inviting the speaker for tonight, Mr. Jarmal Singh, Chairman of the Sikh Advisory Board, and our moderator, Ms. Nazira Muhammad, a docent from the Harmony Center, to come on stage. Please. Mr. Jarmal will deliver the 5th Abdul Alim Siddiq Memorial Lecture entitled The Challenge of Truthful Living in a Plural Age. I now leave you to the good hands of Ms. Nazira Muhammad, who describes herself as an active youth volunteer with religious and non-religious bodies alike. She also writes poetry and long Facebook posts when inspired. Ms. Nazira?
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good evening. In the name of the most compassionate and most merciful God, as the Master of Ceremony has explained, I will moderate tonight's lecture. Mr. Jarmal Singh will deliver his lecture, followed by a question and answer session. So be sure to be on your toes if there is anything you might be curious about. Before we continue, I will spend some time for us to get to know our speaker a little bit better. But before I go on to that, for several years attending the Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiqui lecture, I was always an audience and I would be seated right at the back over there, and I wouldn't be entitled to this view before me right now. And how beautiful do you guys look? I mean, look at all the colors. I mean, I'm just trying to make you guys be comfortable a little bit. Anyways, Mr. Jarmal Singh graduated from the National University of Singapore in 1971 and joined the Singapore Police Force in the rank of inspector. He retired in the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police in 2008 after more than 37 years of uniformed service. He received a Public Administration Medal in 1984 and a bar to that medal in 1994. He is also the chairman of the Sikh Advisory Board since October 2014. He had also previously served as chairman of the board from 2003 to 2005. He has been a council member of the Singapore Sikh Education Foundation since its formation more than 20 years ago. As a devoted practitioner, he has also been studying Sikhism for 7 years at the Sikh Center. For the last 3 years, he has been involved in teaching classes on Sikh heritage and reading of the Sikh scriptures in the Soji program to teenagers at the Sikh Center. Now, just a little bit about tonight's lecture. You know, in Sikhism, like in many other religions, truth is a virtue that adherents ought to strive for. But more important than truth is the notion of truthful living. The founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak, once said, "Truth is high, but higher still is truthful living." This has profound implications to the way we connect with the notion of truth. Interreligious conflicts are often caused by a wrangling over whose truth ought to prevail. This will continue to be a challenge in a pluralistic setting of contemporary society. But beyond this is the more important notion on how we ought to embody the truths from our religion in ourselves so as to be an exemplar to others and let truth be a source of peaceful living, peaceful and ethical living. Now, without further ado, I'd like to call Mr. Singh to deliver his lecture. Mr. Singh, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Muhammad Fatris Bakaram, faith leaders, members of the community from Singapore of various races who are here, my colleagues from the Sikh Advisory Board, particularly the past chairman, Mr. Sujit Singh, the president of the Singapore Central Gurdwara Board, Mr. Gurucharan Singh. They are here lending support to us. And earlier, the music that was performed was from the teachers. From the teachers.
Sorry.
From the teachers and students of the two music academy, one at the Central Gurdwara Board, and the other one was from Sikh Center. So I'd like to thank Central Gurdwara Board for bringing them here. Today, the song that was sung, Awal Allah Noor Paya, was by our saint called Kabir. He's one of the saints whose compositions or revelations are in the Guru Granth Sahib, the Holy Scriptures of the Sikhs. As you notice, the word Allah, word Kareem, word Rahim has been used. So our scriptures use languages which are necessary to explain whatever terms are necessary to the audience of the day where it is said. So there are many languages, many dialects that are captured there. So what you heard was a sample. Now, before I begin the lecture, I want to pose to you something, and I want you to ponder on it as I carry on talking. Can I have the full screen? Full screen? Okay. Please read for yourself. I know. You can laugh at it, but there are a lot of meanings hidden in it. For those of you at the back may have difficulty, I'll just read this portion. My first wife was ugly, of low social status and bad character. She was evil in my home and in her parents' home. My present bride is beautiful, wise and well behaved. I have taken her to my heart. She has turned out so well that my first wife has died. May she, whom I have now married, live throughout the ages. Says Kabir, when the younger bride came, the elder one lost her husband. The younger bride is with me now, and the elder one has taken another husband. So there is a lot of meanings in this, and this is another stanzas from the revelation by Bhagat Kabir, same person whose song you earlier heard. Now, the lecture today is the challenge of truthful living in a plural age. The Mufti has more or less already described, to a large extent, the state in which the world is. The world as a whole, and Singapore in particular, are plural. The moment you have more than one person, plurality sets in. All right? When there was only God and nothing else, that was not an issue. But the moment we came on, it becomes an issue because we have differences in appearance, differences in thinking, background, experiences. Now, there are multi-cultures, races, religions, beliefs, political inclinations, social and economic strata. All of these impact the harmony of a society. All have their own truths. But whose truths apply to me, to you? As long as these truths are kept within their own boundaries, conflicts do not arise. However, this is not always possible because the common space has to be shared quite often. And in the shared space, even within homogeneous societies, particularly like heterogeneous and cosmopolitan society like Singapore, there are differences, in various aspects. Now, our actions, our words, our behaviors, our attitudes, either at the individual level or at a group level, can knowingly or unknowingly hurt and adversely affect others. The laws are used to deal with these when done intentionally, rashly, or carelessly. However, harm can be done even in ignorance. In other words, the person who initiated whatever started the problem or the harm may not realize what he has done. Now, wherever I use the word he, please accept it that applies to she as well. Just a matter of nomenclature. It's easier to speak one instead of repeating he and she. Building up of knowledge of a multifaceted society beyond our known and own comfort areas will go a long way towards realizing that we share some truth mostly, and that the differences are in fact few. Our shared understanding and knowledge of differences should lead to accepting and living with other recognized truths. Again, if you want me to define truth, I find it impossible. Exactly what truth means to me may be different from what truth means to you. But I hope that this series of lectures, and this is the fifth now in this series, will help to understand various faiths and our differences. But today, I'm going to focus on not the differences. I'm going to focus on what is the origin, what is the common, all right? Now, my own way, I will say a truth is a truth as long it is found to hold true. All right? In other words, it continues to be true. If it does not hold true, then it is false. A lot of things are truth at the point of time when they are said, at the point in time they happen or they exist. 100 years down the road, those people who are alive are no longer there. Those buildings that were there have been demolished or become ruins. So if we say the building is there, it is not there. So it becomes false. So in other words, what is truth today may not last the test of time. The only truth that lasts the test of time is the Almighty, the Divine, nothing else. So when we talk of truthful living, it is tied to that. So if that is the truth, then the truth comes from there. In other words, what is defined by God and the Almighty, that is the truth. And our living, or whatever we do, has to be tested against that. So in other words, what does he say? Now, we believe there is only one creator. We call it the divine. In reality, who the creator is, nobody really knows. We give it names, but these names are attributable names. Like Rahim, Karim we used just now. Various other names we use are attributes of the divine. He has actually no name, because where did I get my name? My parents gave me my name. Now the divine has no parents who could have given him a name. And when we give a name to something or somebody, that name brings along it maybe an image, maybe the attributes of that person, and various things. In other words, when I say the tree, all of you know what it means. A tree is a tree. Okay? Unless it's a mango tree, then it becomes a particular tree. Somebody names something, then we have a name. But this divine creator had no name. Over the years, over time, we have given it names. Different faiths may give different names. But if they're talking about the same divine, then it doesn't matter what name it is. So I will use the term God or divine to mean that creator. Now he created the universe not from outside, but from himself. All right? This is our belief, and this is what is reflected in our Holy Scriptures. In other words, whatever the creation is, has been created from Himself. The creation is part of Him. We are part of Him. He is part of us. Now, that being so, what they say is, He placed His light in all His creation. By that term, in other words, there isn't anywhere, anything, anywhere we can say where God is not. Okay? The divine is in all of us, but we may not realize it, may not be aware of it. It's only through various Holy Scriptures this awareness and this understanding will come, that He is not separate from us. Why do we always say God knows everything? Obviously, He is there with us. He's looking through our eyes. He is hearing through our ears. He is involved in our speech. So in everything, God is there. His one all-pervading order prevails. We use the word hukum. I think the same used in the Islamic faith. His one cosmic order applies to the whole of creation. And this order or hukum arose from Him. The infinite divine are sometimes defined by His state. Sometimes we say He is nirgun. In other words, no attributes. Sometimes we say sargun, He has all the attributes. Both are correct. Not necessarily one time is nirgun, one time is sargun. One time He has attribute, one time He doesn't have. He is all. In other words, He has all the attributes and has no attributes at the same time. And before He created the creation, was there anything? Only He and His hukum. He permeates all forms. When I use the all forms, every one of us, table, chair, building, everywhere. In every form, He is there, and in all colors. But in spite of being in all the plurality in the universe, and the universe, the billions of galaxies, He still is only one. Now let me go through some of the aspects of the divine that is defined in the 6 scriptures. He starts off with this type of information, where we use the word. I will not be reading most of the time what is on the screen. That is for you to read. I hope you can read at the same time while you are hearing what's in the ears. In other words, let's use all our senses simultaneously. Okay? Now, what I've just been talking about is something that is captured in this stanza on page 287 of our Guru Granth Sahib. Now I'll go on to his aspects. Ik. Our whole scripture starts with the word numeral 1. If they use letter, people can quarrel what the letter means. But this is a numeral. There's no way you can say there are 2. It's only 1. All right? And nothing can begin without 1. 0 has no meaning without 1. 2 and everything else above it has no meaning without 1. Similarly, the whole of creation is 1 with the Creator. There are no 2s. Okay? One universal Creator is the one Lord is manifest and radiant. The one Lord is hidden. Okay? I hope you all read that yourself. This one universal force operates from the beginning to the end. Now, even when we try to define where the end is, you can't. Not with the divine. We know we are born and we die, so it's end of life for us. But with the divine, there's no beginning, there's no end. Sat Nam. Nam, normally we use it say somebody's name, his name is truth. That is my earlier allusion that the only truth there is the divine himself. Sat is eternal. In other words, has always been there, always is, will always be there. True in the primal beginning, true throughout the ages, true here and now. Karta Purkh. He is the creator of all visible and invisible creation and is present throughout his creation. He alone is the cause of causes. Earlier in the Kirtan, that's what were you hearing? He's the cause of causes. He is a doer. There is no other than him. Nirbhau. He has no fear. Who do we normally fear? Somebody more powerful, somebody bigger than us, somebody. But as far as the divine is concerned, there's nobody who is his rival or superior to him. The entire creation is under his divine command. Nirvair. He is without any feeling of enmity. He has no rival at all. He is beyond any hatred or vengeance, and so are his true devotees. Sorry, what's happening? I think I'm pressing the wrong button. Akal Murat, the divine form is unaffected by time. Kal is time, Akal is without time, timeless. He's beyond time and death. The other second meaning of Kal is death. So he's beyond all that. Ajuni, Lord is beyond birth and death. He was never born. He will never die. Juni, again, is going through birth and death. Ajuni doesn't go through. Saibang, self-existent. He himself created himself. He himself assumed his name, which we earlier called Satnam. And how do we know all this? From Guru Prasad, through the Guru. In other words, this is something that can be realized and attained only through the Guru. So, who is a Guru? Very common name used. The institution of the Guru is a foundation in Sikh religion. He enlightens one and dispels our ignorance and teaches the right way of living through his divine revelations. The divine himself is the true Guru. In other words, God himself is the true Guru, whose divinity has been placed in the persons of Guru Nanak and his successors. And it doesn't mean there was only in there, not anybody else. The other prophets, too, would have had this divinity. Thus, the Sikh Gurus were spiritually one with the all-pervading divine. When we say one here, we are not talking of, I'm not sure in what way people will look at one. Here we are saying spiritually is one. In other words, all their thinking, all their knowledge, all their thoughts are one. And we already told you that Creator is in all of us. So the Creator was also with the Gurus. Now the Guru's word, true Guru, God himself is the true Guru, Guru is the God, and God is the Guru. And when we use that, we mean the Guru is the one who uses God's word revealed to him, and those words are of God, from God, said through the Guru, so they are one. the revealed word in the Gurbani, in the Guru Granth Sahib, I enshrine, is the sixth true Guru and the only spiritual guide. And it's a treasure of infinite wisdom and perfect guide for mankind. For him, he only need to contemplate the word of God revealed through the Gurus. When we say practice, in other words, it's not something just merely listen, merely chant, merely recite. You need to practice what the words say. In other words, what is in the Gurbani lays down how you should live your life. Practicing the way of life is through reflection on the words, and through reflecting you decide how you're going to do what you're going to do. Now, what does the Guru tell us about the purpose of our life? Here, according to Sri Guru Granth Sahib, the man should recognize that he has risen from the divine, and the purpose of his life is return to his origin by seeking union with the divine. However, merger with the divine requires one to be like the divine. Just as he said, the humble servant of the Lord should be just like the Lord. And why? When you try to mix two things, if they are not the same, they don't become the same. So you want to be like God, you have to have the attributes of God. For this, spiritual development is required. And for that development, he must understand and always live in the presence of the divine. In other words, earlier I mentioned the divine is with us, he's in us. As long as we keep that present in mind that he is with us, he is listening, he is hearing, he knows what our thoughts are. Can you do anything wrong? You obviously can't. And it's that way you do not get involved in vices, and you adopt virtues. And the divine himself is the treasure of all virtues. The objective of human life is described as being truthful or enlightened by removing one's ignorance and falsehood that we may have attained by following through the Guru's orders which come into being together with the creation. However, interestingly enough, God's hukam cannot be stated or described. However, every phenomenon in the universe is due to his hukam, which operates everywhere. In other words, there isn't any place where his order does not operate. It is emphasized that throughout the Gurbani, the living a virtuous life is the most important part of a true devotee. And truthful conduct is the highest of all. And truthful conduct implies truthful living. Everything else is lower than truthfulness. So this is a standard that is set. And this is a standard that all of us should try to realize. How do we do that? When we are fully engaged in the real world, meeting one's obligations to family and society, while at the same time working on spiritual growth, spirituality and ethical lifestyle go hand in hand. One cannot make spiritual progress unless one's actions are virtuous. It is only by living one's life according to moral laws, i.e. truthful living, that one can aspire to attain God's grace and eventual union with Him. The Guru tells us that the path to an ethical lifestyle is through purifying the self with the love of God. Now, how do you acquire love of God? It's only if you aspire to be with somebody you love, you want to have union, love has to come in, otherwise you will never reach that stage. Now, Guru Nanak summed up 3 tenets for the Sikhs to help them in achieving or moving in this direction. He said, earn your livelihood through honest labor. Share the fruits of your efforts with your fellow beings. And remember the divine always. 3 tenets. Very straightforward. There can't be any misunderstanding of what they mean. That's all you need to do. To follow this, you can be on the path to truthful living. A person earning a honest income, using God-given assets, sharing God's given gifts with other God's children, while keeping God's presence always in his mind, will attain peace of mind. Here I use the word God's given assets, because if we say this is mine, then obviously we will be wrong. All right? Nothing is ours. Everything that we have, our body, our mind, has been given to us by God. That's His gifts. And when we share with other God's children, it is His gift, it's not ours to give. We share what we have. And why do we all do all this? Because God is telling us to do so. Remember, if we keep Him in mind, that's His direction, that's His advice. Now, service to mankind is service to God who dwells in the creation. Only through such service can one enjoy happiness and be accepted in the divine court. Sharing done with humility and selfless service can be through any means. We can use our body, we can use our mind, we can use our wealth. Any of these are accepted. But this has to be selfless. If they are done for purpose of personal benefit, for our own selfish reasons, then this is not accepted. When we focus too much on ourselves and our ego becomes a barrier where we forget God's presence, and when we forget God's presence, we will not be able to do any of this. Now, why should we do this? Now, we have to live in the divine's presence, whether we like it or not. It is there, but we may not realize it, may not be aware. For the Sikhs, we have to accept the divine will. In divine will, you accept whatever happens, because as I say, when something is done, it's done. You can't undo it. Because whatever pleases God, that happens. And all walk according to His will. It's not our will. We may think that we are doing things, but not necessary. So, we may lack awareness. Now, pain and pleasure is something that a Sikh doesn't long for. In spite of it, if there are periods of time in our life when we suffer pain, or when there is pleasure in our life, we accept them as they are, but we always remain in high spirits. We should do our best and leave the rest to God. Accepting God's will is a very difficult thing. When we fall ill, it's difficult to say, I accept the illness. If I have an injury, very difficult to accept the injury. When I'm suffering pain, very difficult to accept the pain. This is also where those who have learned to accept God's will but that also comes as a gift from God. You know, it's not everybody's measure to accept God's will. God's will is something, another gift from God that allows some of us to obey, to accept His will, and others we cry, and we make hue and cry when things go wrong. If all this is so, then what are the impediments to the path of truthful living? In Indian heritage and in our scriptures, one term is used, Maya, is a concept, and is used in various, as stated on the screen. It is used to describe God's power, the sense of duality, desires that we have, the wealth people acquires. These are all Maya, and its various senses. As a concept, Maya has been used in various meanings. It's a web of illusion which hides man from the reality of his origin. And his being part of the divine light, thus creating duality. When he starts thinking of himself as a separate identity from God, his origin, which is his destination, now that's considered Maya. In other words, anything that separates us from God is Maya. And normally, this will be all related to materialistic thing in this world. But interestingly enough, Maya has been created by God himself. In other words, it's not something. Remember, there's nothing else by God. So this is also his creation, and it's a way for him to test us of putting an illusion, a veil between us and him. And to overcome this veil requires that the ego, which we have developed from childhood, from the time our parents gives us a name, from the time they give us an identity, from the socialization process we go through, we develop I, my, mine. When we develop all this, we forget that we are part of God. There is in us, and that is the duality. How do we overcome this? How do we overcome this? The only way again is to follow the wisdom given by the gurus. If you want to overcome, remove this veil and achieve union with God. How do we do it? We can, as long as we recognize our origin, and at the same time, even while playing, while living any normal life, we can achieve and become liberated from Maya's controls. A Sikh lives a life of moderation to avoid vices, which arise when God-given natural powers and instincts, such as Those lust, anger, greed, attachment and pride. And these, we call them passions, we can call them vices, we can call them demons, but they are natural part of us. We can't eliminate them, but we should not let them master us. When we indulge in these passions excessively or obsessively, it harms our body and spirit. However, when these 5 passions are under control, they help us to live a meaningful and wholesome life. I'll just through briefly these 5 vices: calm, lust. We live a householder's way, anyway the Sikhs do. It does not forbid us from having sex with our spouses, but it only prohibits excessive indulgence in carnal pleasure, as it can become an addiction and an ailment. The passion should be kept under control and used sensibly, and it advocates faithfulness to one's life. So, when we talk of fruitful living, truthful living, this will be one of the aspects. Sikh confines himself to one spouse and consider another spouse as his daughter and sister. So in other words, we come across life and we see people of the other sex all the time, and this is where lust can arise. So it's up to us to have the mental frame. Other than our spouse, we look at everybody else as our mothers, our sisters, our daughters. Then lust will not arise. The second vice is growth, anger. It deprives us of spiritual peace. It dwells in our body as an evil. But because we are ignorant of it, we do not realize it. Because anger has a way of erupting suddenly. Anger causes day-to-day and in society discords and disputes, can lead to mental, verbal, physical abuse and violence. There is a quotation here where it's defined, "O anger, you are the root of conflict. Compassion never rises in you. You take the corrupt, sinful beings in your power and make them dance like monkeys. Associating with you, mortals are debased and punished by the messenger of death in so many ways." So we are advised not to meet or even approach these people whose hearts are filled with anger and wrath. And He alone is pure who eradicates anger. And this can only be realized through the Shabbats, in other words, through prayers, through reading of Gurbani, pondering over them, and by reforming ourselves. The next one is lobe or greed. Here, O greed, you cling to even the greatest, assaulting them with countless waves. You cause them to run around wildly in all directions. You have no respect for friends, ideals, relations, mother or father. You make them do what they should not do, make them eat what they should not eat, etc. We advise not to trust greedy people if you can avoid doing so. Because at the very last moment, they will deceive you where no one else is able to lend a helping hand. Thanks. For example, earning 1,000, he runs after 100,000, and it goes on, right? He may enjoy all sorts of crowd pleasure, but he's never satisfied. That is what is greed. Without contentment, no one is satisfied. And like the objects of a dream, all the efforts of a greedy person are in vain. Attachment. Now this one is difficult. Emotional attachment, you are an invincible warrior of the battlefield of life. In other words, it's the most difficult thing to handle. You totally crush and destroy even the most powerful. You entice and fascinate even the heavenly heralds. We know attachments are a necessary part of our life. We are attached to our families, to our society, to our work. There are so many different attachments. As long as we remain so deeply attached in them that we forget God, then it is a vice. By remaining in this, keeping this attachment, but keeping yourself detached from them, in other words, not letting them overcome you, you can enjoy a normal life. Brave is one who subdues his vicious inner ego, and he who alone conquers self-centeredness is pure. Ahankar, ego, pride. This is believed to the root of birth and death. Because our ego, we continue to go into the cycles of death and life. Now, how do we control these vices? It's difficult because there are 5 of them and we are only one. But only if we can keep ourselves safe from these 5. Not by eliminating, because as we know, mentioned, is impossible. But keeping control, being aware of them, being detached, managing them, we can lead a normal life, truthful life. How do we do that? This is where we need the society. It's almost difficult to do this individually. You need the Sadh Sangat, the congregation. You need the assistance and advice and what you learn from the scriptures to help you control this. We have to continuously remember the divine, contemplate His presence, and for this we need to connect with the Guru's words. Now I said here, nobody can protect us from there. It's only through a holy congregation can these villains be brought under control. So in other words, we have to help each other. Right? We have to help each other in this by giving right advice, by sharing. When somebody is going off, correcting them, letting them be aware, and society not approving any of these adverse behavior, bad behaviors. Now for the 6, our focus is to contemplate Gurbani, the words of God, ponder over them, reflect on them. These are the means that we can acquire, because we may not know, but there are other people in the congregation who knows better. There are religious teachers who knows better. We can seek their advice. We listen to the discourses of the scriptures. From the discourse of the six scriptures, we learn what is right and what is wrong. And that can help us to control. And this is where, whether it's prayers in the mosque, whether it is Sat Sangat in our Gurdwara or in a church, these are essential to help us. Worship of the divine is a way towards achieving this. In an uplifting society, and here we assume that people who go to prayers, people who go and join congregations, they are being uplifted. Otherwise, they would not go there. They might go to other places where instead of being uplifted, they are sent in the wrong direction. So we should avoid that sort of society and join the society. Now, if we can follow this advice that is given and be aware of the vices that we have, I have deliberately not mentioned virtues per se, because all of you know what is good. But being aware of vices, not all of us realize them and they are in us. So we need the help of our colleagues, our fellow community, and everybody else to help us in managing that. But as far as virtues are concerned, we all know good when we see it. And all these virtues, if we can acquire, will help to purify us. And if we are purified, then we can seek union with God. Now I come back to the first slide that I showed you. I hope you have some time to ponder. What does it mean? Okay, I'll stop here now. I will sit there, and some of you can ask questions. At the same time, you may want to give an answer to this. I'll leave it on the screen. All right? I think many of our Sikh colleagues are here. They may know the answer. And of course, my two teachers here, Dr. Jaswant and Dr. Jaswinder, has taught us about all this. Know this too well. But for the others, you may want to ponder and let us know what you think they mean. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh, for the wonderful lecture. Now, if I may just try to attempt to package all of that wonderfulness into a quick summary. Mr. Singh started off talking about the concept of ultimate truth or greatest truth, which according to the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, is regarded as God. Then this is dissected into the characteristics of one creator, the one creator, and the institution of the Guru. This institution then provides guide towards several aspects, including the purpose of life, which correlates the divinity of God that can be manifested in creation. On other aspects, he also included truthful living, honest earning, sharing, divine remembrance, service to mankind, accepting divine will, the concept of Maya, which connotes duality, power, or wealth, and then followed by living life in moderation. Following that, he also expounded on lust, anger, greed, attachment, egotism, or pride, all of which we can coin as vices. He then also talked about ways to keep these vices under control and means to acquire these divine virtues. Now comes the Q&A session, and there are mics situated along the aisle. But if it's far away from you, you can just raise your hand, and the mic will appear before you. So just a note, just so we can maintain this as a safe space. 3 C's. Just remember 3 C's. Keep it civil, courteous, and very, very, very importantly, concise. So is there anyone who wants to do the honors of warming up? Yes, do you have a question? Hi. Please remember to introduce yourself.
Hello? Hello? Okay. I'm Sing Zhao. I'm from a Buddhist background. And I just wish to have a comment that not all religions have the concept of God as creator. God as representation of truth, God as representation of goodness, of something that is eternal is okay, I think, because in Buddhism there is a similar concept of nirvana and being good and all this. But as a creator, I think the atheism and Buddhism do not have this concept. So emphasizing on this concept as a point of union or harmony may not work so well. So I would suggest using a concept of morality. Like all religion would emphasize that everyone being a good person, avoid greed, lust, egoism, and to help save the environment, for example. There is one very good use of religion in the current world nowadays. That would be a very good point to have truthful living in this pluralistic age.
Thank you. I thought that was very, very good. Thank you. Mr. Singh, would you like to say anything to that? Okay. So do we have anyone else?
Hi, my name is Wan. I'm from NUS. First of all, I would like to thank you, and peace be upon all the members of the audience. So, Mr. Jamal, when you addressed the challenge of truthful living in a plural age, you mentioned about divine remembrance, the consciousness of God's love, basically being God conscious, because of our because we are lacking in that aspect. That's why we have this difference between our theoretical knowledge on truth and also our practical application in our living. So then you mentioned the vices, okay? So my question is, from the Singh perspective, why God creates these vices, which acts as the veil between us and Him, from the Singh perspective?
I think it's a very important question. In our scriptures, the whole of creation is a play. In other words, this is God's play. And for any play, like any film, drama, or whatever it is, you know, somebody thinks of a story, develops the script, finds a cast, get them to play roles, they say those words that are needed to be said, they do what is needed to be done, and the outcomes arise. So if you look at the world in the same way, then the whole of creation is God's play. And for God's play to work, obviously if all of us are virtuous people with everything there is, then there's not much enjoyment involved. All right? What do you see? So we cannot say why God created in this way or that way. He has created it. As I say, even the Maya, the illusion that separates us from Him, is been created by Him. The vices that I mentioned to you are natural, built into us by Him. In other words, it's not something we brought in because we can't create anything ourselves. Everything we have came from there. And why and the way overcoming this is where I emphasize our origin. Our origin came from one source, God Himself. That is where our final destination should be, back to God. We have to go through the cycle of life that He has assigned us. And the role, how many of you know whose son or child you are going to be? How many of us know when we are going to leave this world? None of this is under our control. From the beginning to the end is in God's hand. He has written out the play. We are actors in that play. As long as we realize that it is a play in which we are playing, then you have no problem in living a truthful life. Because you realize that this is God's play, this is His will, follow that will, and if I follow the advice that He Himself has given through the scriptures, in other words, He has told us, He has given us all those things that prevent us from achieving good life. But at the same time, He has taught us through the scriptures, our various faiths, how you can pass through this veil. And that is our test. Okay? So if we ask, what is the purpose of God's creation? Only God knows. Anyway, in our scripture it's stated again and again that this is His play, and He is there watching. He is enjoying the play. And when He feels like it, He absorbs all forms back into Himself. And when He wants to, He spreads Himself out. In other words, this is His own, for lack of a better word, His own body. From His own body, He expanded into the whole universe, and He expands it as and when needed to whatever. That is why there's no limit. And where did everything come from? We know in a physical world, you want to produce something, you need some resource material, correct? So our resource material is God Himself. He's the source of everything. So I hope this answers your question.
Are there any more questions from the floor? Okay.
Hi, I'm Darren from the Catholic faith. Actually, I have a question about the understanding of Sikhism on the terms of predestination. Is there any views between that for Sikhism?
Do you mean life after death? Or
Yes, and also in
life
terms of
before?
actions.
Oh,
Like
right.
in terms like say if God is almighty and He knows what's going to happen,
Predestination.
are we, like say what we're doing now in a play, as you said, is it already predestined? Are we still allowed to make a choice?
I see. Everything we're talking of, whether it's predestined.
Yes.
Okay, I mentioned to you that if it's a play, the director, producers, they decide, isn't it? They decide what role the actor is going to play. He decides what word he's going to say, what action is going to take place. So imagine the same thing, that this world is the same. That we are operating. Remember, when I say we are operating, who is operating us? Who is in us? In every part of us. If you look at the tree, what is the tree? Is it a leaf? Is it the branch? Is it the root? Is it the fruit that attached to the tree? Is that the tree? All of them together make a tree. So all of us, our body, our mind, our heart, and I use the word concept of heart, not the physical heart I'm talking about, and the soul, they are all from the same source, and He is in all of them. And if He's in all of them, when I operate, I do something, He's operating me. Okay? So, when you talk of predestination, I thought that word means where you're going to go next. Again, as I say, only God knows. All right? We do not know. But more or less we know, having lived through life, what's going to happen next. We are born, we grow up, and then we reach the final stage where we leave this world. After we leave this world, where we go? Excuse me. Depends. As I mentioned earlier, it depends on our ego. If at the end of your life you're still not satisfied, you have 2 children, you want 10, all right? In number of the scriptures they mention, you'll probably be born a pig. I mean, I'm just giving an example. Somebody wants a very long life, he may be born a snake. So, he's alluded to, all right? He's alluded to. I do not know actually what's going to happen. But in the scriptures, whatever your thinking is at the end of life, that is what you will become. But if the end of the life you're thinking of God, and you are in God's presence at that point of time, and you have to reach that state of mind at the end of your life, you should be doing something about it. In other words, throughout your life, you have been working towards that direction. So at all time in your mind, God is in your thoughts, then obviously that's where you will go. Back to God. I hope that answers your question.
One last question. Can we have a mic for sir?
I'm Jagjit Singh Sandhu. I'm just wondering, in Sikhism, we don't actually consider this as vices, the 5 vices that he referred to. I would say that unless we abuse them or take them to an excessive stage, then probably they become vices. Otherwise, they are wonderful powers God has given us. Would you tend to comment on this, please?
I thought in my presentation I mentioned excess, indulgence. In other words, when there is excess of these, when there's indulgence in these, that's where they become a vice. But they are part of us, they are natural, given to us. There's a purpose. If you don't have lust, are you going to have procreation? There isn't. All right? If you have no anger in you, are you going to have the guts and the gumptions to fight injustice? All right? But if you let the anger overcome you, then that's where it becomes dangerous and a vice. So as I said in our scriptures, they use various terminologies. All right, they talk of them as passions. Nobody say passion is wrong. They use the term vices. They even call them demons. We have seen demons, isn't it, in our life? Have you dealt with an angry man? Have you dealt with one? I have in my police career. And I deal with criminals. You can see these people who have been overcome and overwhelmed by these passions. That's where they become vices. And these people start behaving like demons. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I'll take the last question. And my question is, how is truth maintained in one's identity as people of faith in an actually interactive, interfaith and or pluralistic setting that may sometimes challenge the concept of truth itself?
I think it's best to ask her the answers.
What I mean is, in different faiths, we have our own concepts of truth, right? So when we are in a pluralistic setting, in an interfaith setting, when we interact with one another, in actual interactions where we actually sometimes have to step out of our comfort zones. And then we sometimes have our concepts of truth being challenged. How do we deal with that? How do you deal with that?
Again, I think I mentioned to you and I focus a lot of attention on the issue of our origin. Remember, all of us have one origin. We come from one source. So, in reality, in that ultimate reality, there's no differences between us. In practices, there may be differences. And the reason for the different practices would have reason for historical reason, for cultural reason, for the situation and circumstances in which the particular phase developed. Right? Form of dress is, for example. There are many other, if we keep on looking at differences all the time, then obviously there'll be a problem. How do we, if I wear a turban and you don't wear a turban and I try to reconcile the two and try to make them the same, not possible, huh? Not possible, okay? But if you accept that I wear a turban is okay for me and you don't wear a turban is okay for me, then there's no problem. Similarly with everything else. As long as you go to the center, back to the origin, and ask, is this a material matter that makes a difference to my truth or your truth? As long as you focus on that, all these minor things will all drop aside. In other words, they are no concern. All right? I hope that answers well.
Shukriya. Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. And for me as a young person and also noticing that there are a lot of young people in the audience, I just hope that this becomes a form of inspiration for you to also ponder and reflect on your way home or when you're at home about your own concepts of truth and how you can apply it and what you've learned about Sikhism as well.
Nobody gave an answer. If you relate it to the lecture we had on truthful living, conduct, if you look at the stanzas, and I'll go to the lectern and from there I'll explain. Who is the first wife? My thinking, all right? My original thinking. My original thinking is the first wife. All right? And ugly, my thinking was in the bad direction. Okay? So, what is the new wife? My new thinking, my new conduct. Okay? Later on, he mentions about the younger and the older. How is the younger in relation to an older person? How do they behave? A younger person is supposed to be humble. An elder person is proud and arrogant. So that's where, again, the younger wife is humble. Older wife is proud. So obviously, to be humble, you cannot be humble and proud. You cannot keep two wives. One is humble, one is proud. You cannot. So the proud has to go. Here it says dies. But later on, if you look at the last portion, how do I get this? Okay, I got it back. Older one has taken another husband. Anger, pride. Pride has now jumped on somebody else. Okay? I mean, if you divorce your wife, she may marry another person. All right? So this is what this particular stanza is. again, our conduct, our thinking. When we have not learned anything from our scriptures, when we just think our way, in other words, we follow our mind, that is the behavior of the first wife. Ugly. Low status letter. All right? Okay? Bad character. But if we reform ourselves through change our thinking in line with what we learn from our scriptures, we learn about the Creator. Can we be proud? What is there to be proud of? Because everything is from Him. Am I proud of my wealth? It's His gift. Am I proud of my body? His gift. Proud of my intellect? He put me in an environment of learning where I learned something. Everything that I have is somebody else, not mine. So there's no reason. That's where humility. And in Sikhism, humility is one of the major virtues that we have to acquire. Okay? If in this lecture you don't remember anything else, I hope you remember about the first and second wife. For the women, first, second husband, same reason. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Singh. I think I shall not take your time anymore, so I'll hand over the session to our Master of Ceremony. Ridwan, please.
All right. So I'll make this brief. Thank you, Mr. Jama and Ms. Nazira, and you, the audience, for a very informative discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite Mr. Zainal Abidin bin Ibrahim, Director, Strategic Engagement in MUIS, to give the speaker and moderator the tokens of appreciation. Please. To witness the presentation, I invite the Mufti of Singapore, Dr. Muhammad Fazlis Bakaram, accompanied by Head of Harmony Center, Ustaz Muhammad Fazali Ja'far. All right, Mr. Jarmal, will you please come forward and receive the token of appreciation? There you go. And for our moderator for tonight, Ms. Nazira Muhammad. Thank you very much. Kindly remain on stage for a moment. We'll have a photo-taking session with everybody. Settle down. All right. Thank you, everyone. Feel free to go back to your seats. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our program. May we leave today's event feeling enlightened and taking away some words of wisdom for our distinguished speaker, especially the bits about the first and second wives. We also hope to strengthen our resolves to make this world a better place for everyone. As Guru Nanak once said, truth is high, but higher still is truthful living. May we embody that wisdom and begin our journey to live truthfully in the present challenging world we are in. Let God be our guide, and for some others, let your own morality Once more, as a gentle reminder, kindly fill out the feedback forms and submit it to the ushers at the doors before you leave. Thank you very much for being a part of this significant night for the future of Singapore's interfaith relations. May we meet again soon. I wish you good night and have a safe journey home.